The fundamental paradox in their stance is glaring. They raise fervent alarms about the potential societal impact of queer theory and critical race theory, ideas that have gained traction only in recent decades and affect a fraction of our institutions. Yet, simultaneously, they downplay or outright deny the enduring, systemic damage from over 4 centuries of doctrines asserting the innate inferiority of Africans, particularly inflicted upon infant Africans. To reconcile this profound contradiction, they are logically forced to a singular, deeply disturbing conclusion: that infant Africans possess a diminished capacity to be harmed by systemic evil. This astonishing premise renders these vulnerable children less worthy of the same level of concern, the same imperative for repair, and the same demand for redress that they readily extend to other groups. This position, whether explicitly stated or merely implied, demands an implicit belief in a fundamental difference in human dignity and intrinsic worth. To seriously argue that a few decades of evolving social theory pose a greater threat than centuries of state-sanctioned dehumanization requires a subconscious, or even conscious, devaluation of the inherent humanity of infant Africans. They must, by this twisted logic, conclude that because of some perceived, lower estate, or diminished intrinsic worth, the centuries of indoctrination and systemic oppression simply inflicted less profound and lasting damage on infant Africans and their descendants. This conclusion is not only illogical but also a profound moral failure. Consider their selective outrage. They meticulously highlight perceived injuries to children within the context of divorce or queer theory, often passionately defending the rights and well-being of these children. Yet, at the very same time, they disregard the ongoing, tangible injuries faced by infant Africans today. This includes infant Africans who are themselves victims of divorce, surrogacy, family separation, and other traumas. Their logic, by prioritizing certain forms of harm while minimizing or ignoring others along racial lines, chillingly posits that infant Africans experiencing the very same adversities as non-Africans are somehow less impacted, less deserving of the same level of empathetic concern. This leads to an unavoidable and truly abhorrent conclusion. They must, in a spiritual and behavioral sense, attribute the infant Africans a form of innate congenital insensitivity to pain with anhidrosis, CIPA, or hereditary sensory and autonomic neuropathy type 4, HSAN. Their framework implicitly suggests that infant Africans possess a diminished capacity to feel the profound spiritual, emotional, and societal pain inflicted by historical and ongoing injustices. This includes the very real pain of family separation, the deep loss of identity and connection, and the pervasive societal marginalization that defines their experience. Just as individuals with CIPA, HSAN, are unable to register physical pain and its vital warnings, their logic implies a similar deficit in the ability of infant Africans to register and be profoundly affected by systemic injustice and personal trauma. This leads directly to the deprioritization of their suffering and the devastating lack of appropriate protective societal responses and redress. Let's be clear about the nature of these medical conditions. Congenital insensitivity to pain with anhidrosis, CIPA, is a rare genetic disorder characterized by the inability to feel physical pain, the absence of sweating, anhidrosis, and can often be accompanied by intellectual disability. Individuals with CIPA sustain severe injuries without realizing it, leading to critical complications and a complete lack of necessary protective responses. This condition is devastating precisely because pain is a critical warning system. Similarly, hereditary sensory and autonomic neuropathy type 4, HSAN, also known interchangeably with CIPA, presents with a lifelong inability to feel pain, severe problems with temperature regulation due to anhidrosis, and often intellectual disability. The lack of pain perception results in dangerous unintentional self-injury and severely delayed diagnosis of serious medical conditions, frequently leading to a tragically shortened lifespan. This devaluation is not merely an oversight, nor is it a minor intellectual flaw. It is the foundational, albeit often unspoken and perhaps unconscious, premise upon which their entire contradictory argument rests. It is a horrifying spiritual and behavioral equivalent of a congenital inability to experience harm and its devastating consequences. This is a reality they must confront. At advo_Katie, at Diane Langberg, at Pastor D Mac, at John Piper, at Real Chris Rufo, at Vodi Bottom.